Welcome to the Nomad channel, another YouTube crafting guy show. This is the ignore Hollywood actor and producer Cameron Richardson for now. This is the character we'll be making today. I made her up for my world building project. She is a Nomad Queen. Little bit more lore coming later, but for now, let's start making it. As per usual, I'm starting with an armature made from aluminium wire and foil. And I can wrap that in a base layer of clay, so I get something solid to work from. Ta-da! That's what it's looking like so far. Now let's start working from the bottom and up. I've never really accomplished realistic looking cloth in any of my earlier figures, so that's what I wanted to try with this one. I just looked at lots of reference and added wormy-dealies and blended them in, just trying to make it look good. It turned out looking pretty good, I think, so I just repeated the process with the other leg. Using the old popsicle stick and rolling pin technique, I am flattening out a bunch of clay and cut out the rest of her garments. I want to add lots of patterns and details and designs to it, so I won't have to freehand so much when I try to give it a nice paint job later. I carved a triangle into the top of a chopstick and used that to try and get some different design on the clothing. And it's time for the accessories, starting with the sword. I made a base from a popsicle stick and some wire and covered it in clay. In another chopstick I carved this pattern, which I can repeat like this to make an inverted scale armor pattern. I'll put that on a roller and then I can use the roller to make the actual armor, but more on that later. I also made these various bits. I am putting these aside for now and continue working on the clothing. I just now remembered that I have some patterned punches in my leatherworking toolbox. I grabbed one of those and used it for some other patterns on the clothing. All those accessories need a place to hang, and that place is her big leather belt with buckles made from squared off aluminium wire. Remember when I said I'll be working from the bottom up, and then I actually went middle, kind of bit down, up, okay, we're working from the bottom again, starting with the socks and some Iron Age shoes. This thing is like a status symbol in our Nomad Queen's culture. It's like an open purse where you just stitch all your valuable and precious coins to it to show off your wealth. She is a queen and therefore loaded, so hers is comically big with tons of coins. Remember this thing? It's been hardened now and I used it to get this pattern on the leg armor. By resting them on these wooden sticks while in the oven, I could get this nice curved shape. Then I just trimmed it down and fitted them to the figure. I also made a rectangular sword sheath and I used this rhombus pattern punch to make these flowers. The arms are nothing fancy, aluminium wire wrapped in foil and clay and posed correctly. I like this method of making hands with the folded over finger sausages blended onto a rectangle and I got thick thumb and then sculpting the hand while it's attached to whatever it's holding, in this case the sheath. I attached the sheath like this, but I kind of messed up the connection between the arm and the hand. I had to do a bit of fiddling around to get the wrist in a more plausible angle. I love sculpting a cape for the character. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to attach the hand just like this, but it actually turned out okay and now it's pretty durable. With that out of the way, we can get started with the most dreaded part of the sculpt, the head. We can welcome Cameron Richardson back. That's the reason she's here. She is my reference for this face. Of course, it's not going to look anything like her. I cannot make a good one-to-one representation of a real human face. It's just nice to have something to look at and kind of ground the sculpting in. I ended up with this weird angry baby. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. I needed to make another try. And the second time around it went much better, I think. If you think this isn't looking very good, Just remember, this is what we were working with a minute ago. Moving on. I'm pressing the face into this lump of clay to mount it to the body. Then I turn the lump of clay into a kind of a cloak and add some folds, wrinkles, and these bunny ears. It's a headpiece or crown, marking her as queen of her nomad tribe. What? I almost forgot to give her a pair of ears. Looking good. I already messed around a bit with this arm, trying to get this angle to look plausible. It just wasn't good enough, so I had to cut out some clay and adding some to try and bulk it out and make it look more reasonable. Using a drill, I made a bunch of holes as attachment points for all the gear she's carrying. She's getting a jewelry chain for the sword and some twisted wires for everything else. It's time to mount her on a nice round plywood base, and with that the sculpting is finished. Let's have a final look before we move on to the priming. It's painting time. I don't have a lot to say about that. So instead I'm gonna drink some coffee and talk to you a little bit about the lore of this character. If you want to go to sleep during this, go ahead. Okay, lore time. The character's name is Ganymede, and as I've already said, she's the leader of a nomadic tribe. Her tribe is just one of several such groups who together make up the Aegir nomad faction. All of them share the same religion, culture and settlements. Despite their name, they are only semi-nomadic, traveling between a vast number of locations around the continent. At these locations, they stay for a few years, practicing slash and burn agriculture, after which the soil is exhausted and they move on to another settlement to let the forest grow back. Apart from this, they naturally also function as merchants, and they are regarded as skilled hunters and fabric weavers. Most of the rulers whose lands they cross are not bothered with them, as their settlements are all located in nutritionally poor areas where other types of agriculture isn't feasible. They also often let the Aegir hunt on their lands when passing through, in exchange for them bringing goods from faraway places of the continent. The Aegir get their name from the main god of their religion. Aegir, the god, is an enormous ancient deer who has been carrying the entire world in its crown since the dawn of time. Or so the priests say at least. The Aegir pantheon includes many other animal gods who serve different roles in their society. There is Yemeril the wolf, who guides the hunter's bow. Yelavid, the snake, is the trickster god. Any good pantheon needs a trickster. And the tireless Urmaidar, the dung beetle, is the god of merchants. If I expand on this faction with more pieces in the future, I'll tell you more about them, and Aegir culture at large. Ganymede has only been the queen of her tribe for a short time since her mother passed away, and she holds the role during a precarious time for the Aegir lifestyle. With technology evolving rapidly, more and more people choose to leave the tribes and go to live in any of the great cities. Food is growing cheaper there, due to advancements in agriculture methods, and the very early steam engines that allow for mechanized transportation is affecting the Aegir's positions as merchants. That's all the lore talk I had today. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments. But for now, let's wrap up this paint job. The most nerve-wracking part of the painting is of course the eyes. I have no idea how people manage to paint the good-looking eyes on Warhammer minis and such. This is like 10 times bigger and it's still super difficult, I think. I used a Sharpie for the iris just to get some more control, and a black Sharpie for the pupil. They came out okay in the end, I think, especially with this tiny dot of white paint to add some shine and seal the deal. Having painted the final details, I added an Army Painter flesh wash to the face, all the yellows and the pants. I wiped off the excess, and we could finally attach all the accessories. Nice. a thin blue line around the edges of the armor just to bind it all together. And it's time to bring out the dry brush. I dry brush pretty much everything with the same color I'm painting over, mixed with just a little bit of white or pale sand, just to bring out some texture and give the whole thing a little bit of life. For the base, I mixed together some goop, smeared it all over the base, added some sloppy flocking and some tufts, and the base is complete. And we can have a look at the finished piece. That's all for now. Next time I am probably going to make something people actually want to see, so stay tuned for that. Bye!